Live from the campus of Penn State University, this is PSN News. It's Monday, October 25th. We have all you need to know about a State College Borough member's retirement, as well as details on CenterSafe's recent efforts to raise awareness for domestic violence.
We also have more on NFL's recent end to race-based testing, along with entertainment, sports, and weather.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Hilbert.
And I'm Marissa Yackenchick.
Faculty and staff at 7 Penn State campuses are now required to be fully vaccinated. This change in university policy comes as a result of President Joe Biden's September 9th executive order, which requires vaccinations for all federal employees and contractors. Penn State is now requiring vaccinations for all employees, including student employees and graduate assistants at the 7 campuses where work is being conducted under federal contracts. Penn State will join more than 1,000 college campuses that already require COVID-19 vaccinations for employees, including 10 of the 14 Big Ten schools. Field reporter Maddie Skaw went on campus to get more of this story.
On September 9th, President Joe Biden set an executive order that requires all federal employees of the nation to receive the COVID-19 vaccination by December 8th of this year. This means that all University Park employees, part-time and full-time, will be receiving the vaccine. This also goes for any graduate and undergraduate student on wage payroll. The only exemption to this order is if the individual is entitled to a medical exemption or has religious boundaries. This also goes for any graduate and undergraduate student on wage payroll. The only exemption to this order is if the individual is entitled to a medical exemption or has religious boundaries.
I feel like it's a step in the right direction if we all are proactive and get vaccinated. Hopefully, the sooner this pandemic will dissipate and we'll be able to return to a more normal life.
Staff are to be fully vaccinated by the deadline, December 8th. The current vaccination rate is 81.2% among all University Park employees. The university is reluctant in making sure students are wearing masks, and they are also making sure that students who aren't vaccinated are being tested weekly.
Mount Nittany Medical Center announced that they will be allowing a limited number of visitors for most inpatients. After prohibiting visitations for nearly 2 months due to COVID-19, the hospital announced on their website that inpatients could designate 2 individuals who are permitted to visit them. 1 visitor at a time will be permitted during visiting hours of 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and 5 to 7 p.m. daily. 1 person may also accompany patients of the emergency department and the Women's Children's Services Unit at all times. A caregiver or support person may also accompany patients at Mount Nittany Health Physician Group practices and outpatient locations if needed, but may be asked to wait in an alternative place. The Behavioral Health Unit at the Medical Center will not be accepting visitors. All visitors at Mount Nittany Medical Center will be screened for COVID-19 and are required to wear masks at all times. The updated policy went into effect on Saturday.
Brittany Guisewhite has been accused of killing a 26-year-old Robert Farewell inside of her Haines Township home on April 8th. Guisewhite allegedly told police that Farewell showed up at her house unannounced and accidentally stabbed him after an argument over food. Police concluded Guisewhite was under the influence of various drugs at the time of the attack and was known to be a frequent drug user. Farewell was taken to Mount Nittany Medical Center where he died of a single stab wound. Guisewhite has been charged with third-degree murder, voluntary manslaughter, aggravated assault, and possession of a controlled substance. Her preliminary hearing is scheduled for November 3rd.
After 40 years of serving the State College Borough, Assistant Borough Manager for Public Safety and former Police Chief Tom King is officially retiring. King was hired as a State College police officer in 1981 and was appointed Chief of Police in April of 1993. He retired from this role in August of 2016 after 23 years of service. King remained in the borough administration, serving as the Assistant Borough Manager of Public Safety for the last 5 years. King's retirement was announced by Borough Manager Tom Fontaine at Monday night's council meeting.
downtown State College has been lit purple for the past couple of weeks to show support for domestic violence awareness. October has been named Domestic Violence Awareness Month here in Center County, and to commemorate this, the courthouse and Bellefonte areas in downtown State College and the gazebo at Fountain Park in Millheim have all taken on a shade of purple. The idea was brought on by a local nonprofit, CenterSafe, which helps support victims of domestic violence and sexual violence. CenterSafe is also displaying the Empty Place at the Table exhibit at each YMCA location in the county. The exhibit shows 14 place settings representing the 14 victims killed by domestic violence in Center County from 1998 to 2017. In other events, the Paul Robeson Cultural Center has hosted its 5th annual Pride in Our Community pep rally in honor of Homecoming Week. Field reporter Kira Smith has the story.
Dancing, delight, and diversity. On October 21st, the hub was filled with cheers and a sense of community as the Paul Robeson Cultural Center hosted the 5th annual Pride in Our Community pep rally. As the director of the Paul Robeson Cultural Center, Carlos Wiley played a huge role in organizing the POC pep rally.
The inspiration actually came from students. There was a lot of division happening 5 years ago amongst the students of color. And so I felt like if we did a pep rally, something that was exciting and got them excited about being at Penn State, it might build better community. And so it sort of became a tradition. We started it with homecoming. It was so successful. We added it to Blue White Weekend. So it's just been going on for 5 years, and it seems to serve its purpose because usually after the pep rally, there's a lot more community building going on.
Various student organizations prepared performances and dance routines to celebrate their cultural diversity.
It shows the fruits of our labor. It shows that all of the work that we're doing to engage students pays off, it's successful, and it motivates me to continue to do what I do.
The PRCC has strived to embrace the ethnic, racial, and cultural diversity here on Penn State's campus.
I'm Kira Smith, reporting at the Hub Robeson Center for PSN News.
This weekend was quite the shift in temperature. Is short-sleeve weather finally gone away? Jenna Hugel has this week's weather report.
Thank you, Marissa. Now, I hate to speak this into existence, but late October is usually whenever we trade in our t-shirts for our sweaters. Looking at tonight's weather, we're looking at low 50s right now, some drizzle outside in State College with some scattered showers and a little bit of rain. Now, this weather will stay consistent into tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, we are also expecting to see low 50s. And as we get into the morning, the rain's going to ramp up. We're going to get about 40 to 50% precipitation expected. As we get into the evening, the temperature is going to drop just a little bit. And as the temperature drops, the precipitation is expected to be in greater amounts. And tomorrow night, the temperature is going to stay about consistent with the evening. But the one thing is the precipitation will drop. And going into Tuesday morning, we're expected to Tuesday morning, we're expected to see the precipitation kind of leave the State College area as that low pressure system gets out of the way. Now, looking at this weekend's weather, the spooks and frights of Halloween night may not be the only reason you'll be getting chills on Halloween. On Friday, we're expected to see temperatures around low 50s and low temperatures of around high 40s, so there's not much change there. We are expected to see some showers, some rain showers all day pretty consistently throughout Friday and Saturday, dropping off around Saturday evening. Now Saturday, it's expected to get a little bit warmer than Friday, but not very much. Into Sunday, good news. Sunday, the rain is supposed to drop off just a little bit, so hopefully all of that rain can get out of the way in the morning, so then evening you can go to your fun Halloween festivities. Now the 7-day forecast, looking at this week's weather, Monday today has been the hottest it's going to be all week with the high of 72. We're experiencing scattered showers, and that's going to continue into Tuesday. Now Tuesday it's going to drop. You can see that temperature difference from 72 to 56 as the low pressure system moves its way through State College. We're looking at a low of 46 degrees. Now Wednesday it gets just a slightly tad bit warmer, and the skies will clear up as the sun pops its head out, and that will continue into Thursday. Thursday, the clouds start to come back just a little bit more. The temperature is 60, so just slightly less than on Wednesday, and it continues to drop into Friday as the rain picks up again, and we will go through another cycle of rainy, wet weather. Into Saturday and Sunday, as I previously talked about, it's going to be a rainy weekend, a little bit cold, nothing too crazy, but if you're going anywhere, I would bring a coat and an umbrella. Back to you.
Coming up next, Brooke Stake has the latest stories on Penn State sports.
Welcome back to PSN News. I'm Brooke Stake with your sports update. Penn State football had a historic 9-overtime loss to Illinois on Saturday, 20-18, during its annual homecoming game at Beaver Stadium. This marked the longest college football game in history. While quarterback Sean Clifford was questionable to start, he threw for 165 yards and only one touchdown. Illinois dominated the running game by having 357 rushing yards on the day over Penn State. With this loss, Penn State dropped 13 spots to number 20 in the Week 9 AP poll. The Nittany Lions will travel to Columbus this weekend to take on number 5 Ohio State, with kickoff starting at 7:30 p.m. Penn State men's hockey cleaned up last week as they swept Niagara at home in a 2-game series. The Nittany Lions shut out the Purple Eagles in Game 1 on Thursday night with the final score of 4-0. The team set the tone across the ice with 37 face-off wins, and goalie Oscar Audio was referred as to, quote, a brick wall while he captured his 4th career shutout. In Game 2, Kevin Wall registered the 10th hat trick in program history, leading Penn State to a 6-2 win. This sweeps Niagara with an 0-4 record, while the Nittany Lions sit at 5-1 on the season. Penn State has a big matchup this Saturday as they travel to play at the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame game in Nashville, Tennessee. The team will take on number 6 North Dakota at Bridgestone Arena. Puck drop is at 8 p.m. Penn State women's soccer avoided a losing record in conference play by defeating Michigan State on Sunday 2-1. While the blue and white were trailing at halftime 1-0, redshirt junior forward Allie Schlegel and sophomore forward Ellie Wheeler scored 2 late goals in the second half to give Penn State the win. With the win against the Spartans, Penn State now has a 5-5 record and will head into postseason play for the Big Ten quarterfinals. The Atlanta Braves defeated the defending champions, the Los Angeles Dodgers, 4-2 on Saturday in Game 6 for the National League title and a bid into the World Series against the Houston Astros. This marks the first time the Braves are heading back to the World Series since 1999. Atlanta Braves left fielder Eddie Rosario was named the NLCS MVP after coming through with a 2-out, 3-run home run that opened up the game for the Braves in the 4th inning. That's all for sports. After the break, Juliana Turdo will bring you the latest in the world of entertainment.
Welcome back to PSN News. I'm Juliana Tordo with your entertainment update. This past week, the Penn State community celebrated homecoming with a variety of different events. The popular homecoming parade took to the streets of campus and downtown and was filled with various clubs and organizations. The parade even consisted of the beloved Blue Band and Penn State's own Nittany Lion mascot. 3 Dots hosted a drag show downtown, while many other local businesses were packed due to the weekend's guests. The week was a huge success and kicked off Saturday's noon game against Illinois. One homecoming event, a carnival on the Hub lawn, gave students and visitors quite the experience. Field reporter Camila Rodriguez got to see it all take place.
Penn State's homecoming week has consisted of daily events for all members of the Penn State community. We visited the Best of Penn State Carnival that took place at the Hub lawn from 2 to 7 p.m. The event activities included a mechanical bull, inflatables, free caricatures, and tons of carnival games. Students were surprised with the amount of people that showed up to the event in the middle of a Wednesday.
I think it's cool seeing everyone here together, and there's a lot bigger crowd than I would have thought, honestly, but it's just cool. Unfortunately, I fell off the bull, which sucks, but it was a fun experience.
Even the Nittany Lions stopped by to play with fellow students and take pictures. Not to forget that Mini Nittany Lion showed up too.
at BOPS today, it's been really amazing seeing everyone come out, whether it's community members, students, faculty, alumni, staff, all of those people that we're trying to reach and who have loved and been affected by Penn State as much as us homecoming members have been.
With so much physical activity, BOPS included treats such as popcorn and cotton candy. Homecoming week will conclude with a parade across State College and a football game against Illinois on Saturday.
This week has been a blast for Penn State students. Homecoming week has been filled with fun activities and events. Here at the Penn State Carnival, students have enjoyed Burgery Creamery ice cream, caricatures, and tons of fun games. I'm Camila Rodriguez for Penn State Network News.
Thon announced its theme for 2022 last week. The theme, titled Spark Endless Light, was announced before the Penn State Homecoming Parade on Friday night. In the parade, the executive committee created and displayed a float revealing the theme to spectators in attendance. This is one of the first major events that occurs in Thon's timeline. While the status of Thon 2022 is still up in the air, as last year's events were mainly virtual, the next big Thon event, 100 Days Till Thon, will be November 10th. Alec Baldwin killed director of photography Helena Hutchins and injured film director Joel Souza on the set of his new film, Rust. In Albuquerque, New Mexico, Baldwin fired a prop gun, hitting both Hutchins and Souza. Hutchins was flown by a helicopter to the University of New Mexico hospital, where she was pronounced dead. In addition to this, Souza was taken to the hospital via ambulance. He was shot in the shoulder area and was wounded. No charges have been filed, and the investigation is still ongoing. Rust is a film about a 13-year-old boy who is on the run with his grandfather after being sentenced for an accidental killing in the 1880s. That's all for your entertainment update. After the break, interview anchor Rachel Shuga will be speaking to host of the Made in China-ish podcast, Grace Tomlinson. Stay tuned.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to PSN News. I'm Rachel Suga with an interview with Grace Tomlinson. Thank you so much for being here today. Yeah. I'm very excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited to talk.
Me too. So Grace, for all of you that don't know, she actually is doing a podcast. Could you tell our viewers a little bit about it and just what you guys talk about?
Yeah, so my podcast is called Made in China-ish, the podcast. I interview different Asian American adoptees. It started mainly as a way to talk about transitioning into college as an Asian American adoptee, sort of figuring out your identity. But now it's just spiraled into talking to different people who just have things to say about their identity.
That's really amazing. Has there been a specific favorite interview or interviewee that you've had?
I've been asked this, and it's so hard. It's like choosing a favorite child. I have to say, I think all of the ones. The most recent one that I did was with someone from Penn State, which is really cool because we actually have a lot of common friends, which is interesting because the topic of adoption just never gets brought up, or even like identity. So when we were talking, we had a lot in common, and it's something that's been in the back of our minds that we've never gotten to discuss.
That's really awesome. So with that being said, like, why were you inspired to do this podcast at this point in your life right now, and also at this point in history?
Yeah, well, like any good Gen Z person during quarantine, I started a podcast, and I thought, what better topic to talk about than what's going on right now with the height of the Stop AAPI hate movement. As someone who is sort of in between that Asian American and like Chinese American identity, that was something that I was struggling with, and I knew that I couldn't be alone in that. So I reached out on Facebook pages and on Instagram and things like that, and met so many different people from like Australia to the UK to State College. And I've had a really great opportunity to talk to so many people and hear what they have to say.
That's awesome. So how was it just talking to people from other countries? Did you have any language barrier issues? How did that all go? Because Facebook is kind of a sketchy place every once in a while, and sometimes it's an amazing place to meet people, apparently.
Yeah, I have to say the time zone difference is probably the biggest thing. Luckily, everyone that I've met so far has spoken English to the degree where they'd be able to like have a conversation with me. But as a student now and trying to coordinate with other students, that like 3-hour time difference of someone who's in California has definitely thrown a wrench into my opportunities to interview different people.
That's really understandable. Was there any like super crazy time differences that were a bit exhausting for one of you or both of you?
Yeah, so not someone that I've interviewed yet, but people that I've met, we used to have these Zoom Asian American adoptee like Facebook get-togethers, and I remember I was talking to people who were in like the UK and Ireland, and it was like 3 in the morning for them, but they would just stay on the whole night and talk to everyone, which I thought was really cool, especially during quarantine when everyone was very lonely.
That's so wholesome. God. Oh. So I was also wondering, switching gears just a little bit, what were some of the like social or even technical growing pains that you experienced while creating this podcast, especially during quarantine, which was a nightmare for a lot of people?
Yeah, I'd have to say talking about my identity issues, just because that's not something that I ever talked about to my friends or to my family. It's just sort of something that I kept internally and talked about to my sister, who's also adopted from China, but it's never something that I outwardly spoke about. So I sort of just made the Instagram and started the podcast and didn't tell anyone around me that it was a thing until too many people found out, and then I had to tell them. So I think that was like one of the biggest growing pains, was just telling people that this was something that was on my mind and that I wanted to share.
So I'm sorry if this is a bad question, but why did you not want people that you knew to see it? Or was it just like kind of for you to talk about it? Or
I think it was a little bit of everything. It's just not something that my family talked about growing up. It wasn't an issue. It was just like something that would never be brought up in conversation. And like talking about having issues with your identity growing up, I felt like for my parents was like, oh, did we not do a good job? I'm like, no, that's just not something that we ever talked about. So everyone has been so supportive though. So I think that was just a me growing pain.
No, that's totally understandable, and I'm really happy for you that you can talk about things, and it's become a really beautiful project.
Thank you.
Of course. So have you experienced any stigmas or have addressed any that you either you were affected by or somebody that you care about or anything?
I don't think any stigmas. I think there were some difficulties now that like I'm sort of in the limelight about Asian American adoptees. I've like had a pretty big following. Now I've like almost reached 300, which may not be a lot for some people. That's a lot for me, for someone who was just doing this in quarantine. And it's kind of intimidating to be someone who people like message like, hey, I just love what you're doing. And like, it felt like, especially during the height of the Stop AAPI hate, and then what happened down in Florida was just like, oh, I should do something, I'm responsible. But at the end of the day, it's just all about education, and you know, you can do as much as you can.
That's all that we can do as an individual person. But when you said that you only had 300 followers, if we filled this room right now with 300 people that were willing to talk about your podcast, that would be so overwhelming, because that's a lot of freaking people.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, that's 300 more people that you have that dialogue with. So I'm really happy for you.
Thank you.
Do you have any parting thoughts?
No, but Made in China-ish, the podcast, is on any place that you can find podcasts, so Spotify, Apple Music, things like that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and your life. I really appreciate you being here. Really.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Back to you guys.
The NFL has agreed to end race-based testing for compensation claims made by ex-players suffering from dementia, after it was revealed that the previous testing system was based on a formula that assumed Black players had a lower level of cognitive function. This method compared a player's cognitive test scores with the supposed norm for their demographic group. This race norming made it harder for Black players to prove that they suffered from injuries linked to their careers. Around 1,435 Black players will now be given the chance to have their tests rescored, and thousands may file to qualify for compensation. The NFL's concussion fund has paid out $856 million for 5 types of brain injuries, including early and advanced dementia, since it was established in 2013. However, only 30% of the roughly 2,000 players who have applied for dementia awards have been approved. A panel of experts will develop a new method that will apply to all future and pending tests.
Texas officials urged the Supreme Court on Thursday to leave in place the restrictive abortion laws. The law has worked to effectively shut down this procedure in Texas since going into effect on September 1st, 2021. The Texas law bans most abortions after cardiac activity is found in the embryo, which can happen as early as 6 weeks after a menstrual cycle. The law makes no exceptions for rape or incest. The Supreme Court has been faced with the federal government's request in U.S. versus Texas to put the law on hold due to its violation of Roe versus Wade.
After the bitter partisan debate that followed the January 6th Capitol attacks, the House voted on Thursday to find Stephen K. Bannon in criminal contempt of Congress for stonewalling the investigation. The vote of 229 to 202 came after the former top advisor to President Trump refused to comply with a subpoena from the House Select Committee investigating the assault. After Bannon declined to provide documents and testimony, the matter was sent to the Justice Department. Members of the investigative committee believe Bannon is withholding crucial information, including conversations with former President Donald Trump, warning him of the attacks. The committee recommends that the House finds Mr. Bannon in contempt. 9 Republicans joined the House Democrats in voting to find Mr. Bannon in criminal contempt. President Biden has endorsed prosecuting those who do not cooperate with the investigation.
The FBI announced on Thursday that the remains found in a Florida nature reserve are those of Brian Laundrie, who disappeared last month after his fiancée Gabby Petito was reported missing. Investigators have also found clothing believed to be consistent with what Laundrie was wearing when he disappeared on September 13th, along with a backpack and notebook which were confirmed to belong to Laundrie. Less than 1 week after Laundrie went missing, authorities in Wyoming found Petito's remains in a national forest, and her death was ruled a homicide by manual strangulation. The search for Laundrie had stretched for over a month, and authorities are now working on putting together the details of the case. And that's all for tonight on PSN News.
Be sure to check us out on Twitter and Facebook at PSN News, on Instagram at Penn State Network News, and to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/PSN News.
Have a good night and stay safe, Penn State.